Welcome once again to the Roland Ground, not just sports and entertainment show. This is Sports Edition here live on WBGR Radio here in Atlanta, Maryland, broadcasting to you folks all over this great land of the United States of America and even beyond. Waiting to hear from my good brother Derek in Australia tonight. I had a chance to reach out to a bunch of people, but as always, I'd like to say hello and welcome to my esteemed co-host for the evening, Miss Latanya. Hi, Miss Latanya.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm fine, and you? She gave me the formal. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? How are you? You're great. Good. So let me ask you something. Did you get a chance to watch some basketball? You had a son that had a game this weekend. Just tell me about it.
Yes, my youngest son, DeMarcus.
Oh, she's beaming.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
His 8U team for the Charles County Spartans went undefeated this year, and they won the championship again. So this is 2 times in a row that they've gone undefeated and won the championship for the county.
Is that right?
Yes. And
Okay.
to top it off, he scored the 2 free throws that won the game.
Did he?
Yes.
He's the man.
Yes.
Hold on for 1 second. I have a tech. Spread the mics.
No, you don't want to spread.
Spread the mics. All right, folks. Look here. Give us a call at 301-429-9247. 301-429-9247. I have like 87 mics in this joint tonight, and I'm trying to get it done all over the place so we can broadcast, rebroadcast, and rebroadcast our show this evening. Folks, again, 301-429-9247. We're going to talk tonight about some of the games from the this past weekend in March Madness. We're also going to talk about relationships with the coaches. Now, since your son had this great opportunity to win his championship this weekend and he scored the winning basket, let me ask you a little bit. How's his relationship with his coach?
Actually, his coach is great. His coach is Coach Bird. And he works so hard with the boys. Even though the boys are 8, most of them are 8 and under. So he treats them as if they were in high school, middle school, different things like that. He doesn't lay any slack on them. He makes them work hard. And he pushes them to do their best. So the kids love him, and we love him as parents.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. All right, folks, we're going to take a station break in a little bit as we continue to tighten up some of our logistics here. But you said that he loves his coach. What are 2 or 3 of the things that his coach does? You mentioned them, but what are 2 or 3 other things that your coach does that keeps the parents sort of connected to him and feeling good about things?
He communicates with us with everything that we do. He lets us have a say with regards to the end of the year functions and things. But when there's games, if they add a game to the season, he makes sure that we know about it. Make sure that we can have all the kids there.
What do you mean, like they have a schedule and then they just add games after that?
Yeah, sometimes we'll play a pickup game against another team, like a scrimmage against someone else from another county. And we've played against an Oxon Hill team, which the boys were a little older than them, and they beat them. So our boys aren't afraid to play against anybody at 8 years old.
Really?
Yes.
All right, so they can line up against me?
Yeah, they'll line up against you. They'll try.
They'll try?
They'll try.
All right, so something in the water down in Waldorf, Maryland, huh?
Yes.
Okay, I hear you. So now you were a coach. No, are a coach.
I was a coach. I'm a coordinator now.
You're coordinator.
Yes.
All right, so Mr. Lionel, I have my coach coordinator here with me, Ms. Latanya.
Yeah.
So let's back up for a second. Tell me, you as a coach, what are some of the 2 or 3 principles that you're trying to instill or try to instill in your athletes or student athletes that you think will help carry them all the way through life? What are 2 or 3 of those principles?
They have to have determination and a will to never give up. They have to be committed. Once they commit to something, they need to stick with it no matter how hard it is. Mm-hmm. With me, I did females, so I coach girls. Mm-hmm. So it's also a matter of teaching them how to be young women and young ladies.
Okay, so if I want to be a cheerleader on your team, what's that?
You can be a cheerleader on my team.
Right.
I don't discriminate. Males can. Some
right.
of the best cheerleaders are males.
I know. My daddy was one. Yeah. Yeah. Carroll, 1981, running down the sideline when I was scoring the winning touchdown in the game. Cheered all of 47 yards and got to the end of that, and they had to give him a barf bag, but he made it. Yeah. So, and I'm a pretty good cheerleader, you know. I mean, you see me get a little riled up at some of the
Yes.
games over time, but you know, so I might need some formal training here and there. But for those of you who have participated in athletics and you want to give us a call and talk about your relationships with your coaches, both the positive and the not so positive, that'll be great. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my high school coach, most especially. I walked away with a couple of things that stayed with me for the rest of my life. One of the things he said to me very early on was no quarter asked, no quarter given. And it took me, you know, it's funny when coaches tell you stuff, you go, yeah, you have no idea what the heck they're talking about sometimes. But later on, I understood what it meant. And basically what he's saying is, look, when you step out on the field to play, and in many other things in life, you don't give your opponent an opportunity to exercise their will over you, and your opponent is not going to give you the opportunity to exercise your will over them. So in order for there to be a victor in the end, it really depends on who has the ability to subdue the other one's will and who has the ability to do that for the longest amount of time until that last whistle blows or that last bell rings. Now, fortunately, in high school, we learned how to wield ourselves to some pretty impressive wins. But when I look back at it, Latanya, I realize that as time goes on, not even just in athletics, but in a lot of things in business, and sometimes in the classroom, you get into competitive situations, and also even in relationships, unfortunately, where someone's will is going to carry more power than the other person's. So it's not just in athletics; it's also, as they say, sports is matter of fact, I think Mr. Lionel said this a couple of weeks ago. Sports is a microcosm of society. So that which we find out in play also may play out in real life. Hey folks, 301-429-9247, 301-429-9247. Before I take a quick station break, I also had an opportunity to coach Mr. Tanya and Mr. Lionel. Ask me how that went.
How did that go?
Okay, so the first time I coached my team went 0-11. I was coaching semi-pro football. We lost our last game 109-0.
Wow.
Yeah. It must have been the coaching. The following year, I decided not to coach, and they won the championship. So
What does that say?
I could take that two ways. I mean, okay. So what does it say? So let's take it two ways. Let's take the yin side of it. Let's take the yang side of it. From a negative standpoint, what does it say? I can't coach, right?
Yes.
Now, on the positive side, maybe I supplanted some principles, ideals, and perspective in those young men. It took a little while for it to take root, and the following year they applied that which they learned that first year under me.
Yes.
Now, I took it the first way, like, man, I can't coach a lick. But it was another coach of Syracuse, my good friend Mike Battle, and he was the one that came to me after they won that championship the following year, and he said, Roland, the team employed everything that you tried to teach them the year before that they wouldn't do with you. They did it this year. Now the question becomes why didn't they want to do it with me? And the simplest answer to it is, how do I say this? They weren't ready to do what was necessary to be a champion. And as we take this quick break, when we come back, I'm going to talk to you about the difference between being a winner, being a loser, being a champion, and being a contender. Because people think that it's harder or hurts more to be a loser. It hurts a whole lot more to be a winner than a loser. We'll talk about that when I come back. Hey folks, we're going to take a quick station break. Roland Grimes show live, waiting for your phone calls this evening. You see Empire's playing tonight. What the heck's going on? All right, we're going to take a quick station break. We'll look forward to hearing from you in a little bit. Sit tight. Welcome back to the Roland Grimes, and not just sports and entertainment show. This is a sports edition here at WBGR Radio, WBGRSports.com, 301-429-9247, 447. Waiting for a phone call from the great continent of Australia. And the phones are starting to ring. Let's get it popping. Remember I mentioned a little bit earlier that it's harder to be a winner and a champion than a loser?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah. Hold on.
when you've been a part of organizations that were both winners and losers, like
Yes.
everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that it takes more effort, more energy, and more pain to be a winner than a loser? Because we're having that debate right now. And we have a caller. We'll get to him in about 75 seconds.
Never thought about it that way.
I know.
Yeah, never thought about it that way.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah. I've always thought of it on the aspect of winning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you need to put in the work to win.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you don't, okay, fine, we'll take that. We'll take what we did wrong and improve on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess in the aspect of losing, yeah, you have to look back at everything that you did to figure out why this happened
Mm-hmm.
and what you need to do to improve on that in order to win the next time out. But you always have to go out with the mindset that you're going to win no matter what.
Well, real quick, one of the things about being a winner is that you have a whole lot more pressure. The pressure isn't on the loser. And the second thing is, in order to be a winner, you have to endure things that losers don't have to endure. For example, winning itself is adversity. Caller, whom do I have on the phone? This is Roland Bubba Grimes talking to you live from the great state of Maryland. Who am I speaking to? Hello?
Hello?
Hello, this is Roland Grimes. Who am I speaking to?
Yeah, this is Ben Brower.
Mr. Brower, welcome. Man, I'm doing terrific. I lost my sound. Hold on one second.
Yeah, we all did.
Yeah, that's it. You're back. Dirk, can you hear me? Dirk. Okay, no question. So you may hear me on delay. So when I speak, it may take a second or two for it to travel across the Pacific Ocean. But we're gonna do a little test. My jersey number was 48. What was yours? Ha, ha. Now we didn't forget, man. Now who was the guy before you? Is that right? So look, Derek Brower played on a national champion contender in the Final Four. New Orleans Superdome, 1987. Was a member of the Syracuse, then called the Syracuse Orangemen, as they trekked their way all the way to the Final Four that year and surprised everybody. I don't even think you started that season right, did you? Right. Now let's talk about that, because when Syracuse won the championship in 2013, they were relatively young. Carmelo, Jerry McNamara, Billy Eaglin, some of those guys, and they were relatively young. So sometimes does youth and not building that kind of quote unquote ego that comes from playing college ball, seeing yourself on Sports Center every night, and then living and loving all the trappings of that high life. Sometimes does that youth work in your favor on a college level? I mean, because Kentucky is making this thing happen, year in and year out. Now, as we talk about that, I want to jump right into your life as it stands now. You have a project that you're working on, and if I may, I'm going to step out of bounds here, and I'm going to say that you're working on a manuscript, and I'm not going to give the title. You can if you like, but you're working on a manuscript, and you're going to talk about some things in that manuscript that you want to share with some folks. Tell us about this book project that you're working on and what we can expect from it. Okay, tell us. Yeah, tell us about your book. Certainly, tell us about your book project and what we can expect from it.
Okay, well, my book is basically, it's my story, you know what I mean? It deals about me growing up on Long Island and a few of my friends who went on to be successful, one successful movie star, the other one has a son who is the NBA champion in Holmes, the NBA from shooting that he did in the finals. And a lot of it is, it's basically really from the point of view where I'm reflecting from where I was incarcerated. I mean, the book is about choices that I made, advancement, the choices that I made, which university that I went to, and the choices that I made afterwards, which were detrimental, and the choices that I made that helped me live my life that allowed me to play professional basketball after being incarcerated over here in Sydney, Australia. And it also speaks on the relationship that I had with your players and the relationship that I had with Coach Roland. And a very important conversation that we had that I felt was, for lack of a better word, the sliding door moment of my life. You know, it had to deal with me being allowed to finish my degree.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, it was basically what I could do with school.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're my man.
Right.
And I basically state the fact that with Jim Bernard, how can I put this? I had proof that he is aware of what's been going on at the university and as basically from what I could see as orchestrated.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and in my particular case, that's what I speak about. You know, if you get the book, you'll find it. When the book comes out, people can pick it up. And they will, I basically explain how I received my degree, and I was in jail, federal prison, and I don't even know how that happened.
Well, here's the thing. You're going to talk about that in detail, but as you talk about that, I also was following your story in real time during that time, Derek. And as I recall, and we discussed it, and you talked about it on air, Latanya, when he was interviewing with someone else recently, that, all right, we'll stay together as long as we can. If we do, just call me right back. Derek walked into his senior year. Derek went into his senior year with 55 credits left to graduate. Now, let's do some quick math here. All right, you have your calculator? So at Syracuse at that time, in order to complete your undergraduate degree, you had to earn 130 credits, Lionel. And if you divide 130 by 2, that basically gives you 65. So by the end of your sophomore year, in order to remain eligible, you should be very close to having completed 65 credits, which would leave you with a balance of 65 going into your junior year. At the end of Dirk's junior year, he still had 55 credits to go. Now that was
he eligible?
Well, let's talk about that. Now, as a football player, sometimes that wasn't very uncommon because we often had a redshirt year where we had 5 years to graduate. So we could take a minimal number of credits each year just to maintain eligibility, something like 12. But when you start broaching on your senior year and you realize that you have 55 credits in order to graduate, and there's no way on God's green earth you're going to complete this. So Dirk didn't complete, bottom line. He and a number of people who were having that experience at that time. So Derek, first of all, how did you find out that you had 55 credits left to graduate? Do you remember?
Well, I can't tell you this from the book also, but what happened was, my particular thing, I believe the number of graduates was 121.
Okay.
Okay. Somewhere around it. What happened is, depending on which school you're in,
Mhm.
you have like a little high.
Right.
Okay. What happened for me was this. You're right. In order to be eligible to play NCAA basketball, the rules state that you have to take a minimum of 12 credits a semester. Now, that doesn't put you on schedule to graduate. So what happened was, I took the allotted amount of numbers of classes to graduate, which at that point was 15 a semester.
Okay. Okay.
I read what the academic advisor, we talked about what I wanted to do, I finished serving the state of football. He suggested that I study forensic psychology, that would help me get to med school. I agree. If you get into forensic thinking, you might be able to help them with conviction.
Okay.
So I think that was a good minor, a good measure to take for both.
Okay.
What happened was, I had no idea what particular classes or how many credit hours you needed to be given a degree. So, everything in that area was my math, my science. I took one psychology class, every year I took another one. Now every semester my schedule was being done by the athletic department.
Right.
So, what happened was, my senior year, I did a class from the sports guy who states that he's my academic advisor. And I'm saying, no, Mr. So-and-so is my academic advisor. He goes, no, I'm the academic advisor assigned to you from the university. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know even the name of this guy. This is funny. When I went there to go to office the weekend,
that was my man Blaine. That was Blaine, right? The guy that walked around with he walked around with no shoes. He walked around with no shoes and a cane. Yeah, look like their image, look like other people's image of Jesus Christ. That's right. That was Blaine. Look, you saw him what like hmm hmm
I'm 52 hours from graduating.
hmm
That's what happened. I took him, 15 hours in the semester. He said you have about 36 hours worth of nothing.
Nothing. Oh, Latanya, hold on. My co-host is going to ask a
You
question.
didn't take any classes that pertain to your major. I said, what?
Latanya, you have a question? I know something's going through your mind. What are you going to ask? How did that happen?
How did you graduate?
So I said, what happened? So now what I do is, I go back up to the university, and I have to start petitioning all of these classes. This science is traditional. Why we could tell you what I do it. Why we petition all these classes, and I get it down to, basically, I mean, like, 32 hours of just all nature. I get it down to, okay, you got on whatever you need.
Like 20, like 20 credits, right? Almost 20 credits, right? Wow. Right. And you had to take that during the season. The doorbell. Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I know where this is going. I know where this is going. Yep. Yep. Right. Right.
Yes. Wow. I have a question for you. Okay, I have a question for you because another one of the topics that we were talking about was players and coaches' relationship. So basically, with the story that you just said, how was your relationship with your coach? We were talking about player and coaches' relationships. So based off of what you just said, how was your relationship with the coach? Yes.
Yes. Now, now understand, and you can jump in anytime you want, Latanya. But Derek, I find that I, I well, let me say it to you this way: many people would find that very, very difficult to believe, and and part of the reason why we find that very difficult to believe is because the persona of college coaches, especially not high school, not pro, but college coaches, the persona that's presented in the media is that they're caretakers, surrogate fathers, that they are with us through thick and thin from the time we decide to go there to the time we die. And when you listen to Dick Vitale and you listen to Bobby Knight and you listen to Clark Kellogg and all they talk about is how great an impact these guys are having on our lives, both as players and afterwards. What you're describing is a very different picture of a player-coach relationship. The hell with the fact it's Jim Boeheim and Dirk Bauer. We're going to get into it from this standpoint. I have a coach and I have a player. I have a coach and I have a former player. Now, when you have a coach and you have a player relationship, if there's some things that you did that he didn't like, did you and him have a chance to communicate about the things that he didn't like? And did you have an opportunity to correct some of those things, or at least have that dialogue so you guys could continue your relationship? Or did you not have a chance to have that conversation with him and go about the business of dealing with his issues, the issues he had with you?
Well, see, the part of that is you with the personality around you know.
And that's fine. Let's get into personalities.
The person I took for just regular detective, he didn't have the personality. He wasn't the type of person that you would come in and talk to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He wasn't that type of person.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that was what the assistant coach looked for.
Gotcha.
That relationship was built with them. And it's ironic, not to just that went from your question real quick, but it's ironic that God was by his side for 30, 40 years.
Bernie Fine. Right.
So, that was that aspect of my first year there. But it depends on the coach. Each person is different. I know some of the coaches that have that type of relationship with players.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but the thing about it is when you're being recruited as an athlete, especially when you're young, you're nervous, right? When you say to them, you want to be the person that you meet. And I always say this thing. I'm going to say that a practice of Syracuse, right?
Right.
I'm going to practice and I'm thinking that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. We cut her up, right? Then he starts talking, and he turns to me, and he said, Dad, you push yourself about as hard as a soft-boiled egg. And he starts going off on me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at this guy, and I'm saying in my mind, listen, not the same guy that came to my house and ate my man's chicken and was telling me how much he loves me. So, you don't meet the real person when you are not at the school when you're a recruit. Even as representative, you meet the person that wants you to pitch to you, the same person that the media meets. So you don't meet the person that when the girls are closed in the locker room, and you're going to be like, where's God? And you're not going to be a fan. So there,
Okay. You know, and that.
But I think that elementary show wasn't there, and it's not there.
Okay. And that's a critical point. I'm gonna bring this point up, and then you just give me a response. You, Latanya, Lionel, everyone in the studio. But here's the thing. This is my estimation across the board. Not only do you not meet the real person when he's coming into your living room to recruit you, Latanya, the rest of the world doesn't get to meet the real person when they're on television. So now what happens is you have these individuals who get to present themselves, who are allowed to present themselves in your living room to your mama and daddy. And in many cases now, especially in African American households, to the mama. And he also gets to present himself polished, cleaned up, and everything in the media. And the media continues to present him in a way, or her in a way that makes it seem like this person is a standard above everybody else in America, but that's not the real person that you are going to work with on a daily basis. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that person is much worse or much better. It's just different from the real person. Talk to me.
But on that same aspect, as far as that athlete, you're not meeting that real person either. You're meeting their representative. You have gone out and you've scouted them, yes, but you haven't been in a practice with them to see what they're giving out. They may not be giving their all at that particular time. So that coach might have to talk to them in a certain way. Again, a lot of parents, with my son being 8 years old, and I guess because I've coached before, so I've been on both sides, a coaching aspect and a parent aspect. I don't get on the coach when he yells and different things at the kids. Some parents are like, well, why is he yelling at my child? But sometimes that child needs it because they might need that extra push. Yeah, they might be the superstar, but when they get out there to practice, they might halfway practice. They might not give their all. I get on my kids about that all the time. My kids will play down. If they're playing against somebody and they're not up to their level, they will play down. And I have to constantly tell them, don't play down to anybody's level. You play at your level or above. So, I mean, you have that same aspect. You're not getting the real coach and you're not getting the real athlete when you're meeting them in that circumstance. Not until you actually get into a practice.
But I tell you, let me just step in real quick. I agree with you. Everyone puts on a representative. You know what I mean? But let me give people who show you truly who they are. However, you know, and I don't expect them to do that. But what's expected is for you to keep being truthful about what you say and about what you do with a child or an individual. That's the point I'm talking about. You know, you can grab, or you can scream, you can motivate, but at the end of the day, you know, I said certain things, and you make certain agreements, and I make certain agreements with come there that we both have to fulfill. And that's where you start to see the difference between, you know, someone who you look at as someone who's just an accident coach and just trying to engage, or someone who's really trying to, you know, help youngsters actually go through things.
And let's also
And that's a good thing.
and let's also talk about it in the context of the relationships as well. Latanya, what you have in the nature of college ball, Derek. I was there when you showed up that sophomore my into my sophomore year. I was there when you lived that summer in Syracuse. So you have a relationship where your son, great, I have a caller coming in, Derek, so we're going to wrap up. Your son gets to come home to you. Your son gets to go to school tomorrow. Your son gets to sleep in his bed, and so does mine. Once you go to college, and pro athletes are allowed to do that. While you're in college, that coach, that school environment, and that coach is responsible and has to be responsive to almost every aspect of your life as a human being. Am I wrong in saying that, Derek?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know, and people, this is, and I know you gotta go, this is what I know, you know, they try to say the academic advisor or this person. No, it's that coach that came into my house to spend to my mother and my father. It wasn't the academic advisor. It was not the chancellor. It was not, no, it was him who came in and said, I would like your child to come with me.
And part of what happens, and Derek, I do appreciate the call, and we're going to continue on. And of course, we're going to work together when your book comes out to see if we can get it into the hands of 900 million people. But Tanya Lionel, as we close on this conversation with Derek, let me refine this. It's not a blame game. It's the relationship that you have with that college coach during that time, especially on the Division I level. Everything goes through that coach. If you have an injury, if you have a stomach ache, if you want to go to the bathroom, that coach has to give you a permission to damn near breathe. Go ahead. Right. I well, well, I'm glad it's not a tell-all. Well, I'm glad it's not a tell-all because I know you had some stuff to tell about me. Derek, thanks for calling, man. We'll be in touch real soon. All right. God bless. We'll be in touch. Hey, folks. Once again, Roland Bubba Grimes here on Roland Grimes Show with my side kick, Miss Latanya. This is Roland Grimes. Who am I speaking to? Caller, are you there?
Hello? Yes.
Hello, caller, are you there? Can you hear me?
Can I?
Caller, can you hear me?
Go ahead and talk, man.
Okay, yeah, I got to really hear you. But this is
Jerome. Jerome Hall. Can you hear me a little better now?
I can hear you.
All right, Jerome. We just finished talking to Mr. Dirk Brower, and Jerome Latanya, in case you don't know, and you don't know, is also a former college athlete, and he played two sports. He played basketball, he played football, and he played lacrosse at Syracuse University. Did I get that right? In addition to that, Jerome, and this falls into your purview especially, Latanya, he has done life skills training with numerous college and professional teams over the last several years. Is that right also? And he's also responsible for helping raise me. So anything that's wrong with me, you can blame him. All right, you got me? All right, Latanya, say hello to Jerome.
Hi, Jerome. How are you?
Jerome, can you hear Latanya?
I couldn't hear it. So again,
Hi, how are you?
how you doing?
I'm great.
Jerome, we were just kicking some things around. We're going to talk about relationship between coach and player. Now, give it to me straight. When you were playing college ball, your position coach, your head coach, how do you describe in your own personal athletic career, how do you describe the relationship, as you recall, between you and your coaches?
What you talking about that sentence, it wasn't much of a relationship, to be honest with you.
Really?
It was about football. It was about business. Those are the kind of lessons I really learned in college. It wasn't about you out there having fun and people lecturing you and things like that. It was about the business of football. And which was a serious lesson learned because, going into it, you had all these hopes and promises that was one thing. You learned very quickly that this is not that. And I'm sure that there was some people had good relationships with their coaches, but I wasn't really one of them who had some relationship where I felt like, a coach is what people think a coach is. As far as this nurture, people who are teaching you all these different things. It was about either you perform or you didn't. And if you didn't perform, there wasn't much conversation for you at all. There wasn't even much conversation about even how to get better. It was that, if you had some other kind of mentor in your life, as far as I'm concerned, that could help you with that, then that would be good. So it was either you performed at a certain level, and if you performed at a certain level, then you got a lot of accolades and people would talk to you and that kind of thing. But if you were an athlete who was trying to get there, there wasn't much of a relationship with anybody.
Go ahead.
I don't have anything on that right now. Still processing.
Still processing.
Yeah.
LaTanya's still processing that. So LaTanya, Jerome just said that if you weren't performing at a certain level, people didn't have much to talk to you about at all. In other words, there was almost a dividing line between those who fit that small percentage. And let's break it down, Jerome. Barry Switzer from University of Oklahoma, in his description of Marcus Dupree in one of the documentaries, he said that it typically took the average player from University of Oklahoma 3 years to get into a game day huddle. Jerome, that sounds about right on Division I level?
Definitely. I mean, I'm sure the game is changing a little bit now, and just because of where you are, because now I'm in the South, and it seems to be a little different. It appears to be a little different. I'm not quite sure, but that was definitely the game. But I also played, where, coaches had people come in and then they made people. So there were certain areas where they would come in and they would find some way for them to be out there. So if you're in the right place in the right time, you can get something where it doesn't matter what your talent, they can develop you. But the majority of the guys that had a tremendous amount of talent, the majority of the guys that had a lot of talent on my team wasn't really on the field.
Right.
So it was about, the talent you had, because we didn't have the kind of coaches that said, if you have a great skill, a great talent, a great athlete, we're going to find a way for you to do on the field. It was like you learn our system or you ain't going to be on the field.
Now, when Jerome talks about Syracuse University coaches, Lionel, at that time, he's going to give you, with my help, a little rundown of the coaches that we had a chance to play under. Lionel, have we ever had this conversation?
No.
Okay. All right, hold your breath.
Yeah.
Jerome, who are some of the coaches that we played under?
When you talk about some of the coaches that still with the NFL, you're talking about Terresso. I don't know if you know Coach Terresso, who won all the championships at Ohio State and the other Division II school up in Ohio.
Youngstown State.
Jim Tressel, right? You're talking about Ivan Buellers, who just won the Super Bowl this year with the Patriots and had, I think, 4 Super Bowl wins with them. You're talking about Clarence Brooks, who also has Super Bowl wins with the
Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore.
Right. We were talking about coaches like Randy Edsel, who now is a head coach at Maryland. You're talking, so we had some.
Dave Campo, former head coach of the Cowboys.
Right.
All right, Georgia Leary.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, our strength coach was one of the first people to have 3 Super Bowl rings as the strength coach 6 as the strength coach for both the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots.
Right.
So this was our pedigree back then. And funny story is, Dave, I had knee surgery and on my birthday. And as I was leaving the hospital, LaTanya, this guy comes to me and says, "Your name is Roland Grimes," and I say, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I'm picking you up and taking you to the facility for rehab. My name is Dave Campo," and he's like, "I'm a new coach." So they sent the guy that had just arrived to come pick me up from the hospital. I didn't know this guy from Adam. Now later on, he became the head football coach for the Dallas Cowboys. Yes. But at that time, he was just some guy that, and matter of fact, Jerome, at that time, the coaches didn't even respect the guy, did they?
Not at all. I mean, I can remember a situation where one of the coaches spit on him. I mean, not on purpose, but he was chewing tobacco and spit on him.
And didn't apologize.
Wow.
So what happens is Jerome, I'm going to go a little step further. The glory that we all see when we turn on the television and we read the newspaper about NCAA Division I athletics, is that very similar to the life you actually live as a student athlete?
Is that like what? I'm sorry, I couldn't get you.
Is the glory that we read about and see on television anything like the life that you really live as a, okay. Tell us some of the difference.
It's like anything else. I would imagine like actors or anything, people see the glory, what appears to be glory, and they don't really see all the work that goes into it, and all the pain and suffering and all the real hard work like where you don't really get to see. You know, you don't get to see if you win a game, you get certain things. If you lose a game, you get certain things. You know, there's a big difference between winning a game and losing a game as far as what you get when you make snacks. You know, so, I mean, those kind of things. So it's nothing like it appears on TV.
Now, when you were going into these different colleges and talking to some of these athletes in today's world, what are some of the significant differences that you saw between the athletes of the day and those that played back then?
Yeah, I'm not even sure if it's differences. It's just I get to see a lot more.
Oh, because your position changed. Okay, I got you.
Being a lot more mature, looking at athletes, and it's kind of, it's really disheartening to see so many people that just don't know what they're in, and they've all been sold the dream their whole life of this athletics, you know, and but really what it means when you get out of school or when you're not successful or when you get hurt, what that really means, the reality of that. I've been to some schools, you know, and in places that I couldn't even imagine that had a team, but had the best football facilities you could ever see in your life. Better football facilities than any NFL facility I've ever seen for the players, right? So you have these athletes who typically come from these poor families, you know, enjoy these things as long as they're able to play football. But when they're done with that, basketball, football, any other sport, you know, just when those doors are closed, I mean, those doors are not open. You know, I also had a athlete that I actually went to high school with that played on our team with, and you know, he just had enough football, and he just wanted to live his life, you know, and move on. You know, he was having a baby and that kind of thing, and he thought that life was like it was when he was playing football. But as soon as he quit the team to go live his life, all those doors had closed. He couldn't find a job. None of that stuff that was so readily available for him wasn't available for him anymore. And I think that was a big shock for him because he thought, oh, I'll just go and do what I'm doing. But no, it wasn't like that.
So as we wrap up, when you talk about some of those doors, Jerome, we have about a minute 30 seconds. As you talk about some of those doors that close, once the ball is deflated, once the game is over, once the whistle blows, or whenever you have a change, when those doors close, how then does an athlete, you know, George Clinton used to always talk about the hardest thing was for a musician or an artist to land on their feet after they've gone through something very, very traumatic. Now, how do you get back on your feet? Now, you have these athletes like us who played this game for many, many years, from 8 years old all the way to the time they were 22. And all of a sudden, that thing is over. How is it, or what is it, that we have to do as parents, and what do we need these young men and women to do to be prepared for, a little better prepared for what happens when those doors close, because you never really know when that's going to happen. What do we need to do as parents, and what is it that the athletes need to do to be better prepared for that?
You know, my thing is this, you know, I don't sell sports, you know, I don't sell being an great athlete, and if we can somehow begin to work with our kids, because I work with athletes on all different levels around issues of domestic violence and behavior issues and things like that, and then what people try to do is most of them react after the fact that something has happened. So, you know, when you look at what's going on now in the NFL, what's going on with players and sexual assault and stuff like that, what people want to do is they want to address, you know, things that's happened after the fact that we need to get with our kids. And you can enjoy sports all you want, but it can't be taught as that's the only thing. You know, so most of our young athletes in particular are playing only when they're doing sports. You know, and they're raised as a young kid getting a football. So in today's society, that doesn't have to happen. I mean, there's so many things out there now where you don't have to be an athlete to be successful. And even if you are an athlete, it has to be ingrained in you. It has to be something else that you're passionate about just as much as you are with athletics. So it starts with us working with our kids, when you know, as they get into school and things like that. So, and it doesn't matter what kind of messages we are sending them, positive messages, but
Right.
It has to be at the level where, it's not just about praising some young kid because he's a great athlete in 8th grade or 6th grade or Pop Warner football. It has to be
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Yeah, you're making sense. As we close up, man, bottom line is we have to start building our youngsters and their parents around other dynamics other than athletics. All right, folks, look, Roland Bubba Grimes once again with my co-host, Ms. LaTanya, engineer, Mr. Lionel, and cameraman on the scene, Mr. Ron, and of course, my good daddy sitting here with me, making sure that I concentrate on my verbs. Folks, have a good evening. We'll see you again next week, same bad time, same bad channel. God bless you. We'll talk to you soon.